This presentation is the Reflections of an Instructional Leader by Heidi Johnston for week 10 of LEAD 6293 and instructor Dr. Amalio Neves. The overview of this presentation will be based on varied perspectives of the leader and the participant, 3 professional learning experience moments ranked from least effective to most effective, and what is my ideal professional learning. Varied perspectives of a leader and a participant. I first would like to talk about perspective. Perspective is the way individuals see the world. It comes from their personal point of view and is shaped by life experiences, values, and their current state of mind. The assumptions they bring into a situation, and basically a whole lot of other things. Reality can be very different. We can easily say that my perspective is my reality. There is truth to that statement. When we look at the shared reality of an event, though, the more perspectives you get, the closer to reality you get. Perspective taking is about being able to understand a situation from the point of view of another person. The nice thing about this skill is how it allows us to better explore a situation that happened in the past, or it can support you in making an upcoming decision. So let's talk about these 2 roles. As a leader, the perspectives of a leader can be influenced directly by their leadership style. Let's take an example, transformational leaders. Transformational leaders stimulate and inspire their followers to commit to a shared vision and goals of an organization, to achieve extraordinary outcomes, and to be innovative problem solvers. They empower and support their followers to develop and grow into leaders, align objectives and goals of each individual follower. This perspective is woven through the process of their professional learning style. The professional leader has this ability to reach audience in a variety of milieus. Contrasting to the participant, the perspective of the participant in a professional learning could be varied, but I like to sum it up basically as, what can you do for me? As a participant, my desire is not based on my leadership style, but more from a place of if this information is relevant, is the process interactive, are you an expert in the field, and can I scaffold and build on the information that's being presented in a thoughtful and rigorous way. Together, both the leader and the participant want mutually beneficial results from professional learning. The results might look different, but both want to walk away with positive affirmations of effect. The leader and the participant should end both learning something new. Perspective building from different points of view allows for this larger view screen of diversity and thought, which is beneficial for everyone in this project. 3 professional learning experience moments. The first one I'd like to discuss is the least effective. And this came through, unfortunately, during my doctoral leadership seminar. I was very excited and came into it as a participant, eager to learn, eager to move forward in this rigorous study of a doctoral program. And this would be my first time having some sort of one-on-one contact on a regular basis with my mentor, the doctoral leader. What ended up happening during this situation was something that still sticks with me today. On my first individual learning experience moment, we met as a group and we discussed the layout of what to really understand in our concept paper process. And then we broke out into individual meetings. This is where I had quantified how this is my least effective. And I found that instead of being inspired to move forward in my concept, I was being challenged, and not in the kind of way that you appreciate being challenged. I appreciate being challenged in thinking outside of the box. I appreciate being challenged in learning something new. I appreciate being challenged of hearing different perspectives. But this was a challenge directly to the concept that I was bringing forward, which was incivility in nursing. and this doctoral leadership chairperson was challenging me on the concept and stated that nurses were not uncivil, that the topic was ridiculous, and that though my project was a valid project, the premise was based in fallacy. And I spent the 5 weeks of this seminar, instead of learning about the process of a concept paper, it was more defending the process that nurses have decades of valid research-based information and data that shows that nurses are uncivil to each other. And I found I was trying to validate my position, even with evidence information, with someone's personal perspective. And so for me, when someone is unable to see past their personal perspective and look at what evidence-based data really says, it really narrows my learning experience. And for this reason, I take into it perspective is key, and this was absolutely the least effective of my most recent learning experiences. The next learning experience moment that was moderately effective was during my ACE concept paper course. During this concept paper course, why I found it moderately effective is that my teacher of record was extremely supportive and really modeled the behaviors and the complexities of what a teacher of record. However, what I found was difficult in this, and I take it with me, is that sometimes the practices that are put into effect aren't really thought out from varied perspectives. Meaning, there was a lot of us in this class, and the teacher of record was tasked with being able to handle all of the different projects in a timely fashion and then go through blind review process, with the teacher of record not being able to fully identify what problems are and what the blind reviewers were wanting from us. And so what it showed to me was that when I'm tasked with an educational outcome, I need to be more embedded into the process, especially if part of the grading process will be done in peer review. And as kind of disorganized as this thought sounds, it's more helping me ground in the process of, if I'm allowing outside influences to dictate the flow of my program, I need to be even more consciously aware that there are other supports that I could lend my participants during the process to ease them in this transition of waiting for peer reviews from anonymous sources and what and how they can interpret the feedback that's given to them. The most effective course in recent days was on simulation in nursing. And it wasn't necessarily the topic, but it really provoked thought in perspectives from the leader as well as the participant. And it really struck me as this is something that just was timely in being asked this in week 10. And so I wanted to bring forth something that I learned in this simulation. It was about perspective taking. And that is something in nursing we have to really learn how to do. Empathy and the ability to connect to somebody's dark area at a time that they may be very vulnerable is something that we have to constantly evolve and work on. And we talked about that in this simulation process because we try to provoke a reality in a non-reality lab setting. And we do this through the use of simulation. But first was this perspective taking. And I want to share that with you as a way of how I will learn to do that with my students. And this is why I found it very effective. This skill called perspective taking is a beautiful skill, and as we have as human beings is the capability to take in different perspectives. So I'm going to ask you to close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself taking the point of view of one of the students in your participant class. Once you close your eyes and you can put yourself in that student participant role, ask yourself, as a student, what do I want? Then take the time to ask yourself, as a student, what do I fear? And for me, I would just interchange student with nurse or nursing student. And I think the answers to these questions may look similar, may look different. We all have a fear and we all have a desire. And sometimes they intersect. And I think as a professional educator, I need to put myself back into that perspective of feeling like, what is that student experiencing? What is that student feeling? And as the professional leader, to be able to wrap myself up in that, to give them those tools to be able to handle whatever situation I'm putting them in. Now, it doesn't mean they will be able to handle it fully, but it's that perspective taking, that empathy, that ability to social-emotional connect with that student is what makes, for me, one of the most effective learning experience moments that I can have. As discussed through many of our slides, this last slide looks at what is my ideal professional learning experience. I think that a very good professional learning experience, or one that I feel is highly rated, is one that takes multiple concepts and experiences and puts them together. First, I really would like it to be collaborative. I don't want to be talked to. I want it to be interactive. I want that professional learning experience to bounce and flow like the energy in the room. I do not want to be talked at for an hour. I do not want to be talked at all. So for me, having a collaborative experience that engages me, or as I'm the professional leader, to engage my audience in a collaborative perspective taking. What do you think of this? How is your perception with this? What would you do differently? That process of collaborative work is ideal. Thought-provoking. I want to be able to drop these little thought bombs and put something out there, and I want to stimulate an engagement of my learners. This thought-provoking is a perspective-taking moment. I want to know what they think. I want to know what they perceive. And part of that is implying the rigor of evidence-based data. I want to drop these evidence-based thought bombs out there and let's see where that goes. And then lastly, taking into the social-emotional process of being a learner in a very ego-driven sometimes, a very emotionally charged sometimes, and a very rigorous expectation of nursing in particular. So when I go to a professional learning experience, I want it to be collaborative. I want it to be thought-provoking. I want there to be an academic rigor elevated, that I feel that I'm taking away learning tools and nuggets with me. And then lastly, I want that teacher to engage me in this process in such a way that I feel that we are engaged in the learning process, that we emotionally, there's this empathy that goes along with understanding where I'm at, understanding where we need to get to, but lifting me along the way. And I utilize that in my classroom, where I let all of my students know the expectation that I set the bar very high for them, much more than what the course actually requires. But I will be there to help them get over to that higher bar through rigor, through collaborative engagement, and through dialogue that is thought-provoking. Lastly, these are the references utilized throughout this presentation. Thank you for 10 wonderful weeks.